The Miami Heat just pulled off one of the biggest upsets in NBA history. The Bucks were being hailed as the championship favorites heading into this postseason after putting together some of the longest win streaks in the NBA this season, and Giannis having another year as an MVP finalist. But what people failed to take into account coming into this Heat versus Bucks matchup is that Jimmy Butler was going to have literally one of the greatest playoff series we've ever seen, and that the Heat were going to go on one of the wildest hot shooting streaks I've seen from a team in a playoff series. None of that is an exaggeration. Jimmy averaged 37.6 points, 6 rebounds, 4.8 assists, and 1.8 steals per game on 67.1% true shooting. He went from shooting 35% from 3 during the regular season on 1.6 attempts per game to shooting 44.4% from 3 on 5.4 attempts per game in the playoffs. This was an unprecedented leap in efficiency, and the craziest part is that it wasn't just him who magically got the shooter's touch in the playoffs, it was their entire roster. Miami went from being the 4th worst three-point shooting team in the NBA during the regular season with 34.4% to now leading the playoffs in three-point percentage with 45%. That's not a typo. I didn't misspeak. You can fact check this. They took a nearly 11% leap in three-point efficiency during the playoffs. Right now, the narrative seems to be harping on the idea that the Bucks choked or they failed to play at the level that was expected of them, which is true. But I'd rather focus on how Miami executed nearly perfectly to beat the team that seemed to be considered the favorites to win it all heading into the postseason. First things first, we gotta talk about drop coverage. It's well known that the Bucks pretty much exclusively defended pick and rolls with Brook Lopez in drop coverage. This pretty much allowed Miami to get into completely uncontested space to unload the clip from mid-range. Not only was Miami able to leverage the drop coverage into open looks from mid-range though, but they also turned it into wide open threes. Look at this play for example. Kevin Love sets the screen, and Jimmy takes his dribble before picking it up, and Jrue is actively going under the screen despite the fact that A, Jimmy either has to pass it or shoot it now, and B, he had been knocking down his threes in the series up to this point. So you'd think that Jrue would probably try to close out and make sure that he doesn't give up an easy three, but Jimmy doesn't hesitate and he makes him pay. Both Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson absolutely abused drop coverage to get good looks, coming off of screens in the pick and roll to either get a good look from beyond the arc or in the mid-range. And since I'm bringing up Duncan Robinson, I just want you to know that he shot 74% from 3 over the course of the entire series. And he played in all 5 games. He got 20 minutes a night and he was attempting 4 threes a game. It was some of the most ridiculous three-point shooting I've ever seen. The whole idea of drop coverage is that you live with teams shooting poorly from mid-range, and you assume that they're not going to shoot absolutely lights out from 3. The Bucks didn't do that. The Heat shot 49.2% from mid-range and 45% from 3. That is wildly above average efficiency from both of those areas. More specifically in the context of pick and rolls, ball handlers shot 41.3% from 3 coming off of screens in the pick and roll. At a certain point, Milwaukee should have realized that they needed to stop dropping, but that adjustment never came, and Miami just kept on lighting them up. Now I want to talk about Bam Adebayo for a second because he probably wasn't quite where you'd want him to be on the offensive end in terms of his production, but I want to single out what he was doing when defending Giannis in the fourth quarter of Game 5. He was denying Giannis the opportunity to get into the paint, and when Giannis would try to go up for shots, Bam would immediately have hands up to shut it down, forcing the pass out here, resulting in Giannis eventually settling for a pull-up mid-range jumper. When Giannis was getting into the paint, Bam was consistently disrupting his shots or forcing misses, and I'd imagine it resulted in Giannis slowly losing confidence in getting to the rim, especially because when he was getting to the line during Game 5, he was really struggling to hit his free throws. So instead of getting into the paint and worrying about contact, he would just end up settling for mid-range looks more and more as the quarter progressed. This play right here was one of the most important defensive possessions of the night, with the Bucks getting into this empty corner pick and roll between Giannis and Jrue, and Giannis is going to slip the screen to go up for the lob. Bam is guarding both Jrue and Giannis, but Bam's going to be able to rise up insanely high to tip the lob pass away, and it's going to go off of Giannis out of bounds and give the Heat the ball. He did struggle on the offensive end at times during this series, but he still hit some timely mid-range shots, and he showed up big when it mattered, and without his defense on Giannis, they might have not been able to close it out in 5 games like they did. Of course, this series looks a lot different if Jimmy Butler didn't turn into prime Michael Jordan like he did. Jimmy Butler is a special type of player because he's one of the few guys that when he decides he's going to win you a game, or in this case an entire series, then there's not that much that you can do to stop him. And it's not like he was doing it against terrible defenders or a bad defense. He was doing this against Jrue Holiday and the Milwaukee Bucks. Jrue Holiday is widely considered to be one of the best point of attack defenders in the league, and the Bucks had one of the best defenses in the NBA this year. He helped fuel their offense, which seemed to outsmart the Bucks at basically every turn and every pivotal moment, but it was especially noticeable in the fourth quarter. They were constantly driving and kicking to manipulate Milwaukee's defense to force mismatches and try to create good looks, with Kevin Love driving on Lopez after the closeout, which forces Portis to help in the middle, but that opens up Martin on the wing. Lopez makes the rotation, but once again, Martin's able to attack the closeout, and it opens up Love again above the break to get off an open catch-and-shoot 3. The Heat had been feasting on drop coverage all night, so Lopez is going to be playing to the level of the screen here, meaning that when Jimmy comes off of the screen to drive, Holiday's going to have to be the one to step up and guard him. But that opens up an easy pass to the corner, leading to an easy 3. This Horns action is probably one of the best plays of the entire series, with Robinson coming to screen for Lowry to drive, which flows into Robinson getting a flare screen from Kevin Love. Lowry reverses the ball to Bam, who initiates the DHO with Robinson, but when the defense traps against him, he splits the pass to Bam on the short roll. This is going to cause Giannis to rotate onto Bam, but Bam just pitches it out to Love for an easy shot. They kept running offense for Jimmy specifically, putting him in a position to punish the drop here coming off of the screen from Bam, knocking down the jumper over Lopez. Then on this possession, they load up in the corner, using Bam as the primary ball handler, and having Strus and Love set double screens for Jimmy to make the baseline cut. Now running the offense through Bam here actually accomplishes a really important task, and that's drawing Brook Lopez out of the paint to open things up down low so they can run off-ball actions in order to get the ball into Jimmy's hands. And with Lopez pulled up to guard Bam, he just threads the pass to Jimmy for the finish. Again, they're letting Bam initiate the offense, with Love setting this down screen for Jimmy to curl off towards the paint, and he gets the pass to immediately nail the floater over top of Jrue Holiday. They took things up a notch here with a down screen from Love into a ghost flare by Jimmy for Strus, which then blends into this really nice inverted pick and roll between Jimmy and Bam, and when the Bucks trap, it leaves Jimmy in an empty paint to cash in and get the and one. And then to top it all off, they run a simple pin down for Jimmy in the corner, and with Jrue going under the screen like I talked about earlier, Jimmy can get the ball and settle in before pulling the 3. This whole sequence of offense got Miami all the momentum in the world to get them in a position to win the game. Milwaukee had all the chances to put the game away, but horrible shot selection, refusal by Mike Budenholzer to make adjustments that might help slow down Jimmy, like sending doubles at him and forcing other guys to make plays, or playing Giannis at the 5 and switching out of the drop, resulted in probably one of the most embarrassing series losses I've seen in a really long time. The Heat deserve a ton of credit, and the takeaway from this series should not be that Milwaukee beat themselves and Miami just somehow got lucky. Miami smelled blood in the water, and they seized the opportunity without hesitation. They rode one of the hottest shooting streaks I've seen from a team in a playoff series. They were a struggling three-point shooting team all season, but then they managed to get hot right at the most important time. Even if they do come back down to earth, in terms of their perimeter shooting, they're still going to be close to an average three-point shooting team rather than one of the worst in the league like they were during the regular season. But if they can somehow manage to continue shooting 45% from 3 for the entirety of the playoffs, and Jimmy Butler continues to play like Michael Jordan, then I genuinely don't know how anyone's going to be able to beat them. Huge thank you to all of my patrons for helping make these videos possible. If you enjoyed the video and you want to see more like this, be sure to subscribe and leave a like. That's the easiest way to support me and help me continue making content. If you want to support the channel further, you can click the link in the description to become a patron. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.